What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. I've been thinking about the tight end group because I'm still tuned in to what's happening on offense. I want to be as knowledgeable as possible in the event we actually find a way to field an average, above average, elite offense and what that took over the course of OTAs and whatnot. But the tight end group is one of the more intriguing positions in the entire Jets roster to me because there's still not just the outside perception, but even in our own community, it feels like there's a level of underrating, undervaluing the players and the effects that they have in this offense just because we haven't seen them put up elite numbers, right? Starts with Tyler Conklin, who's the primary subject of today. So we'll dive into him in a little bit, but he's had some comments from his press conference recently and thinking about what he will look like this year in the offense. Some light bulbs were going off about what does a breakout year potentially look like for him, and should we be expecting potentially the complete opposite of that. But then you take a look at the rest of that depth chart, right? Jeremy Ruckert at number 2. He's been on a continuing positive path of improvement in terms of making plays, being more effective in the receiving aspect. You can say he's an above average to elite blocker right now as a tight end. I mean, a ton of the biggest plays from Breece Hall last year, Jeremy Ruckert was a prime contributor in. And then the tight end 3 position battle is probably the one that excites people the most. When you take a look at that tight end room, even outside of paying attention to guys like Tyler Conklin and Jeremy Ruckert, because you have Kenny Yeboah, who's made some high impact plays when we've seen him on the few rare occasions. He's also been a strong special teams player and a part of some key, big plays from Breece Hall as well. And then you have our draft crush, if you will, in Zach Kuntz. Perfect RAS score, elite athlete, doesn't get any better than that, and the hype is only going to continue to blow up. After maybe a month ago when I dropped and we got the news that Aaron Rodgers and him built up a pretty solid chemistry during his return and the scout team practice reps being done together. So I'm really impressed by the group overall. And then we have some other guys out there. We talked about can't remember his first name. I want to say it was Tyler, but Sefcik, one of the UDFA tight ends, and there's a few other guys that are out there. So really, really unique room. I love Ron Middleton as a coach and what he's been able to do. He has impressed me more so than anybody else on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to cranking out productive players, whether that's overall just being a great tight end or producing elite role guys. But to go back to Tyler Conklin, if you start off with the fact that obviously the Brock Bowers hype was going to get to him, he's using that as a source of motivation, and there is a key area in which not only he's aware that he's maybe not doing as great as he could be or needs to drastically improve that area, but a lot of what people really wanted out of Brock Bowers was the yak ability, right? It's the reason why, when we were going through draft coverage, my question to people was, why spend the first round draft pick on a guy like Brock Bowers when you can get a guy like the Yak King? And I assumed he'd probably go in the second round. But, nonetheless, same type of ability, and that generally seemed to be what people were looking for. And it's easier to do that and implement into an offensive wide receiver as opposed to tight end. But you've seen what the general emphasis was when Joe Douglas attacked this position, 2 off seasons ago, or maybe it was 3. But Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah comes in, Jeremy Ruckert, untapped potential, good athlete, yada, yada. But the skill set were guys that can win one-on-one matchups, or they can make the most out of plays that should really be minimal gains, right? CJ Uzomah fit that category more so than what we've seen out of Tyler Conklin. But Tyler Conklin was definitely the better receiving prospect out of the two. Nonetheless, they both brought an element of the same skill set. They just did it in different fashions. With Tyler Conklin, I still think he's a great receiving option, right? You've seen him obliterate linebackers and safeties with his route running ability. The biggest piece really is the yards after catch, him being able to make something happen once he has the ball in his hands. He more so just turns into a bowling ball, but in the worst way, in my opinion, right? It's like when you have the It's like when you go bowling and you have the actual bumpers up, for example. He's just going to find a way to roll into whatever happens to be coming his way. He's not necessarily looking to be elusive, and he's not necessarily physical in my perspective, in terms of trying to just bowl guys over every time. It just seems like his vision goes to whack, and he's just trying to make sure he continues to fall forward. Not a problem with that, but it doesn't lend yourself to being a yards after catch kind of guy. So glad he's working on that element. Can't wait to see how that shows up in training camp and then in preseason games. But when you take a look at Aaron Rodgers coming in, historically, he doesn't do great with highlighting his tight ends per se in terms of making them top tier guys at their positions, but he does a overwhelmingly great job of making sure that they are efficient and they are impactful. So the biggest metrics I can see, right, and I think Tyler Conklin did 61 catches last year and it was like 621 yards. Tyler Conklin's best attribute outside of his route running is his hands, right? Ranked number 2 in the NFL with his 66.7% contested catch rate among tight ends with 400 snaps. And then he ranked second with 12 contested catches. You look at the flip side of things like him not having a single touchdown last year. The biggest moment I remember from Tyler Conklin last year was the red zone touchdown that he dropped, right? Outside of that, there's been too many times where over the course of an entire game, you don't really see his impact. I can't even remember him being in too many of the huge plays that were broken free by Brees Hall or that he created on his own, and maybe there's just a final key block. So it is really, really frustrating. It almost feels like phantom yardage and catches with a guy like Tyler Conklin because, to be honest, and I'm sure if I did a breakdown, I would see that most of these yards probably came in like the fourth quarter, but that's what it feels like. Fourth quarter yardage, you're talking about garbage time plays where, they're just looking to make something happen. Obviously, you have the Zach Wilson factor involved in that too. But I'm not expecting a ton out of Tyler Conklin, and it's not from a bad place. I think Aaron Rodgers doesn't like to attack the middle of the field. He doesn't highlight his tight ends, but every time Tyler Conklin gets the ball, there's going to be pinpoint accuracy. There's going to be an understanding that he had a matchup that Aaron Rodgers either pre-selected or felt really good about, or Tyler Conklin made something happen. And I think you'll see that reflected in his yards per catches. I think you'll see a career best from him in terms of touchdowns, 6, 7, maybe 8. And I do think Rodgers can get in that mid-30s range for touchdowns this year. But, just putting it in perspective, you take a look at the target volume order that Tyler Conklin probably falls in. Garrett Wilson ahead of him. Mike Williams obviously ahead of him. Then you have Brees Hall, 76, I think, targets last year. A lot of that coming in the second half because of Hackett. And then Tyler Conklin starts to settle in as that fourth option. But if Jeremy Ruckert can take another jump, that's going to eat into his target share. You're expecting Brees Hall to be running the ball a ton more, obviously implemented in the receiving game, a ton more. And so you're just not going to be seeing these 40 plus, throws per game kind of situations to where he can really take advantage of that. But ultimately, I do think he's still very, very critical to our success. I don't think he's going to put up gaudy numbers, but I think we're going to be extremely excited about his performance, and we'll have memorable moments where we can say, he crushed it. Every time we needed to get a first down in a third and, intermediate situation, 3rd and 7, something like that, Tyler Conklin got the ball, or it's red zone, he took advantage. He got us, the 2 scores that we needed in this game, or he's been getting a touchdown at least every other game or something ridiculous like that, right? So I'm really, really excited for him. I know he's motivated based off the press conference I saw where the Brock Bowers conversation did come up. Obviously, he just seems internally driven to be performing a lot better. And then also you're talking about a contract year, so he's obviously going to would have put his best foot forward from that perspective as well. But let me know what you guys think. I know the tight end room has kind of been a hush-hush type situation, but what are you really expecting out of a guy like Tyler Conklin? And Do you expect he can be a difference maker, or is he just a solid weapon within this arsenal of weapons we've tried to acquire for Aaron Rodgers? I'll catch you guys again. Peace.